The Philippines is among the countries most vulnerable to severe weather. Authorities are now finding ways to inform people of what the weather could do instead of just what the weather will be. The government has developed a system to do just that. We now speak to DOST-PAGASA's Lorenzo Moron. Mr. Moron, thank you so much for joining us. Share with us, what is the impact-based forecasting and warning system?
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. This impact-based forecasting and warning system is one of the newest research and development initiatives of DOST-PAGASA, which basically attempts to narrow the gap between early warning information and users' expectation. Because nowadays, what we are providing to the general public is basically conventional forecasting, which is quite technical and people do not usually understand this information. So this impact-based forecasting attempts to provide easy to understand information that are pitched on the language of the public by providing the potential impacts instead of just providing this meteorological information. Thus, we say what the weather will do instead of what the weather will be.
So engineer, how crucial is it for PAGASA to shift from the current weather forecasting and warning system to IBF? And won't this IBF system create more confusion down to the local governments and to the households when implemented?
Sir Rico, the World Meteorological Organization is strictly or strongly promoting the shift or the implementation of impact-based forecasting and warning system. This comes after, the onslaught of Typhoon Haiyan back in November 2013, where, despite the accurate and reliable warning information provided by PAGASA, but still what happened is that so much casualties had still been recorded by the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council. So the WMO says that it is no longer enough to provide just an accurate and reliable warning information, because people are now demanding information on what to do in order to secure their safety and, of course, their property. So many national or international med centers are now progressing from conventional forecasting into impact-based forecasting, and Philippines is one of them.
This is indeed, engineer, a very promising approach in weather forecasting in the context of lessening the impact of weather disturbances. But have we also considered other factors that contributed to the undesirable results of our disaster response?
That's true. Actually, Sir Rico, nowadays, because of the science, we cannot do away with some technical jargons in terms of provision of early warning services. But this approach basically is somehow we are now progressing into an easy to understand warning information. So our attempt here is address this gap, because we say that information when not understood is useless. So this is our endeavor that we have been, exerting too much effort back in 2019, that we are now progressing this traditional forecast into impact-based forecasting, and we continuously collaborate with local and international partners to really implement this system the soonest possible time.
And how is PAGASA preparing both the national and the local governments and the public in making the necessary shift to the impact-based forecasting and warning system?
Yeah, actually, Sir Rico, back in 2019, because this project started back in 2019, so since then we did several consultations with several stakeholders, not only in Metro Manila, but also in Metro Cebu, because this impact-based forecasting is no longer just within the bounds of PAGASA in itself, but also in partnership with local responders or stakeholders. So since 2019, we did several stakeholders consultation, we did several workshops in order to come up to ensure that we have common understanding in terms of impact-based forecasting and warning system.
So engineer, when will the full shift to IBF materialize? When will this happen?
Actually, PAGASA nowadays is actually doing its best foot forward. to lay down the plans and progressing this traditional forecast into impact-based forecasting. So we are now making necessary preparations to make this system fully operationalized very soon. So we have to do necessary or thorough deliberations between researchers and forecasters before we can come up before we can make this system fully operational fully operationalized. We need to undergo thorough validations, verifications on this system because at the end of the day, if the system is not fully validated, it's the people that will suffer. So we have to ensure that the system is good enough and it's ready enough for implementation.
Thank you so much for joining us on The Final Word, Engineer Lorenzo Moron of DOST-PAGASA.